Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley. Welcome to this month's edition of Sparkle and Shine. Thank you for joining me. I am super excited to share this card project today featuring the brand new Saddle Up and Celebrate stamp set from Birdie Brown. I am a big fan of Birdie Brown little people. I think they are so cute. And I've been obsessed with cactuses or cacti lately, and I think this one is so cute. Now, I also really like how that balloon and the cake have the little cow spots. And that sassy cowgirl, man, she is adorable. It reminds me so much of my niece. When I get stamp sets like this, I like to arrange a bunch of them onto my MISTI or my mini MISTI, depending on how big the stamp set is. And I like to stamp all of the images a couple of times. Then I have them ready to go for when I'm ready to make a card, or if I just want to do some coloring on the go. So I've done that here, and I'm inking up all of these images in Copic friendly ink, and I'm going to stamp them onto this Neenah Solar White 110-pound cardstock. And I'm just going to press over the top of all of those images to make sure I get a good impression. Now, I did this on a couple of quarter sheets of Neenah Solar White so that I have a couple of options, and also in case I screw up, because I tend to do that. And then I am going to start my Copic coloring. Now, I tried to keep the Copic coloring really simple. There are a lot of markers, but I'm doing 2 or 3 color blends for these. I started the skin out with the E50, E51, and I decided that wasn't quite enough, so I brought in the E11. And I'm going to work light, medium, dark. Actually, no, strike that. I'm going to work light, dark, medium, light. That's the way I kind of like to do it. I like to get a little bit of that base of the lightest color going so that the darker colors will blend a little bit easier. And for the cow spots, I'm going to do some that are a lighter brown and some that are a darker brown, but I'm going to stay within the same family. And so what I like to do for that is, for instance, I'm going to use an E30, E31, and an E33 on some of those spots. But for the darker spots, I'm going to flip out the lighter colors and just add one more darker color in that same family. So I'll use like the E33, the E35, and the E37. This makes sure that my browns kind of all mix together. I don't get some that are more red than the other, but it gives me a darker blend of colors. And I like to do this when I want, more than one tone of the same color. I like to just grab 4 markers, and in my lighter one, ditch the darkest marker, and in my darkest one, ditch the lightest marker. So I hope that kind of makes sense. Now I'm going ahead and coloring her little skirt and her vest in the same colors just to keep it easy. I didn't want to pull out a bunch of markers. I really tried to keep it on the fewer marker side, even though when you're coloring people, I feel like there ends up being a lot of markers that you use just because you have different colors for the hair and the clothes and the skin. But I did try to keep this on the fewer marker side, if that makes any sense. Now for the pinks, I'm using R00, R11, and R21. And I was going to leave it at that, but I didn't feel like my dark was dark enough. So I ditched the R21. I kept coloring. I didn't remove it or anything, but I ditched the R21 and I brought in R22 instead and blended that out with the R11. And that just brought a little bit of contrast and depth to that pink color. You don't need a whole lot of your darkest marker, but you do need the dark marker because the dark marker is what creates contrast and really makes those images pop. So when you have a big variance between your light and your dark, but you can kind of blend them into each other, that makes for more contrast and it really makes your images come to life. Now, I didn't want everything to be brown and pink. I wanted some other colors in there as well. And I'm going to bring that in on the cake and her handkerchief. I'm going to bring in some BG10 and BG11 for this top layer of the cake. And for the cacti, I'm going to use YG21 and YG23. I used the same brown markers that I had used before for the cacti hat, and I'm just adding some lights and some darks, and I just kept that to a really simple 2-color blend on the cactus, and I think that pop of bright green is so much fun with this color combination. So before I die cut these, I decided to slip these back into my MISTI and stamp the black line over the top again. This is just going to really like deepen that black line. It kind of gives you the same effect as tracing your images, but it's a lot quicker. But you do have to make sure that you have your paper seated right into the corner of your MISTI so that you don't get a shadow line, because if you're offset just a tiny bit, it can look really funky. So I went ahead and I snipped apart all of my dies and I positioned them over the stamped images. I held them in place with a little delicate surface painter's tape, and then I have all of my images ready to go. For my card front, I'm going to use the My Favorite Things Latte paper or cardstock, and I am going to stamp some pattern on it using the Whimsical Woodgrain background stamp. And I just inked it up in some Versamark ink. Versamark ink is great on craft colored cardstocks. It shows up really well. I find that it doesn't work quite the way I want it to on like lighter blues and pinks, but a craft colored cardstock like this, the Versamark ink is perfect for a tone-on-tone effect. Now, when I looked at these images, I thought, what's a little cowgirl without a lasso? So I decided to create my own little lasso using some twine that has a little bit of metallic gold threading through it. So I'm just tying this in a knot and making a loop at the end of this string here. And I am going to kind of have this looping around on my card front. I'm trimming off just a little bit of that tail there. And in order to give this a little bit of body and to kind of help it stick to the card front, I'm going to use the Ranger Collage Medium in the matte finish. I'm going to just squirt out a little bit on my craft sheet, and I'm going to pick it up with my finger as much as this goes against me. I can't stand glue on my fingers. But I went ahead and picked it up with my finger, and I'm rubbing it onto the length of this twine here, and then I'm going to wipe off my fingers really quick because that drives me nuts. And this is going to start drying fairly quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and just press it onto my card front, create a couple of loops, and then just kind of let it set up there. I am going to reinforce some of these contacts in a little bit with some more of that collage medium. But this is a great way to kind of get it started and kind of keep it in place. It's going to be a little bit pliable to where I can kind of pick it up if I need to, and I ended up kind of rearranging that loop there on the right-hand side. But before it dries completely, I am going to take my cake and put it right in the middle of that lasso, so it looks like she's kind of roping that cake. Now here's where I go back in and I reinforce some of those contacts with some more of that collage medium in the matte finish. And then, like I said, I did decide to kind of rearrange part of that so I have it going off the upper right side of the card. Now for my sentiment, I decided to white heat emboss this Hey Darlin' sentiment right onto some coral cardstock. I love this color, and it goes so well with those pinks that I used on her hat. So I prepped the surface using my powder tool, stamped it in some Versamark ink. I added my white embossing powder, and then I heat set that. I trimmed the end down into kind of a banner shape there, and I'm attaching this onto my card front using some foam adhesive. I'm just going to kind of create a landing place for my images. And you can see I did attach the little balloon that I colored and the smaller of the two cacti kind of there in front of the cake as well. Now I decided she needed to be holding this rope, so I am just attaching another piece of twine here with some more of that matte finish adhesive, and I'm just going to hold it onto her hand there in a little loop. And once that kind of sets up, I'm going to loop this around the back of her and use the foam adhesive that's on the back of her to kind of sandwich that little loop in place. And then I'll just press that onto my card front, and now she's got all that lasso kind of going around behind her but ending up where she's kind of roping that cake. Now I trimmed this down and I put this onto a white top folding card base. It is a linen textured cardstock, and on the inside of my card I'm going to stamp this sentiment that says saddle up and celebrate. I thought this would be a fun birthday card for one of my nieces. I'm stamping that in some VersaFine Onyx Black pigment ink, and before I close the card I'm going to heat set that so that it doesn't smudge on the inside of my card. Now I'm going to add some finishing touches with a gold paint pen. I painted her belt buckle there. I added a little bit of shimmer to her hat and the cake. I'm also adding some fun star sequins, which I thought would be fun, kind of like that, sheriff kind of feel there, Old West kind of feel. And I'm finishing off the balloon with a layer of glossy accents as well. And I just started in the center of that and kind of worked my way out to create a nice smooth finish over that balloon. So that completes my card for today. A really fun birthday card, perfect for a little girl or even an old gal in your life. I hope you enjoyed this card project. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the My Favorite Things YouTube channel so you won't miss any of the fabulous card making and paper crafting video tutorials here. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Be sure to check the YouTube description for links to products used in this project. Thanks for watching and spending some time with me today. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day, partner.